Today I'm talking to Jeanette Yates, and we're talking about text messaging and how it can best serve your ministry or your church. It's time.
Holy nuclear time bombs! Holy overeating! Holy roller coasters!
It's time!
It's time.
It's time for the YM Sidekick Podcast!
Well, hello again, everybody. I'm Tom Pounder, the host of the YM Sidekick Podcast, and this is the place where ministers come to get some cool tips and tricks and ideas on how to do ministry on this very digital and online world. And I'm really excited you're here joining me today. And again, like I said earlier, I have Jeanette Yates on, and we're talking about text messaging because, as you know, text messaging is a very powerful tool to minister to your people in your ministry or your church. And if you didn't think it was a powerful tool, we're going to be talking about that and why it's so powerful and how it's so effective. So we're going to talk about the effectiveness of it, and then we're going to talk into some strategies on how to use text messaging. We are going to talk about text in church, and there's a great opportunity that text in church has to offer. But just know that there are plenty of other text messaging groups out there. I use text in church. I think it's very effective, and I highly support that. But there's lots of other text messaging platforms out there that you can use as well. The key thing here is how you can use text messaging to best minister to those in your community, in your church, or in your ministry. So I'm really excited to have Jeanette on. She's back and better than ever, and we're ready to begin in this interview. With me right now is my friend, the friend that I've never met in person, but I've seen a lot on video, Jeanette Yates. Jeanette, how are you?
I am great, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. As well as I can be doing, I think, considering this pandemic.
Yes. Now, I just have to say, as you were introducing me, I'm like, is there an award? I feel like I've been on your podcast a lot. Am I the one who's been on more than me?
There's been a few people that have been on. Stan has been on, I think, more than you. And then a guy named Corey has been on.
All right.
I think Corey has been on the most. And so, but you are up there. You're in the top 3 or 4 for sure.
I feel like, hey Stan Rada, this is a call out to you. I need a shirt that says something about me being a frequent guest on this podcast.
We should make. I should have Stan
shirts.
make all. I should make. Yeah, I should make Stan do that. Make him do that. I should ask him to do that. I hope he's listening to this podcast right now.
Oh, I'm going to tweet it out when you drop it to make sure, and I'm going to tag him in it to make sure we get our t-shirts.
Yes, that is good. Yes, but you are of all my female guests, you are definitely number one. You're the number one female guest here. So.
Well, I'm a podcast fanatic, so anytime I get a chance to come hang out with my friends on podcasts, I'm all about it.
Yeah, see, and I like podcasts too, but this I don't know if I mentioned this to you before or not, but since the pandemic has hit and since we've been inside most of the time, my podcast listening has been less than it would be, because normally I would listen to it on the way to the church office or something like that, and I would catch it. But now I'm just at my house, so I'm not listening as much as I used to. Are you listening?
Yeah, well, I do have my workouts in the morning, and that's when I listen to. So I get a good 2 hours in.
You do a 2-hour workout?
Yeah, I mean,
Gosh.
sometimes it just depends on how slow I am when I'm running. But you're right. I could leave my earbuds in all day and listen to podcasts all day, but then my family feels like, hey, hello. Last night I was actually putting together a piece of furniture. I mean, don't it's, A plus B equals C. It's not hard, but I had my AirPods in, and my family was trying to talk to me. And then finally they were like, okay, never mind. So that was the one time I did leave my AirPods in, but normally I try to take them out so I can actually hear what's going on around me with my family. So
yeah, that's the same. I love my AirPods, but again, at home, it's a kind of a different story for me, unfortunately. So, all right, well, let's get into talking today. You have a fantastic job at Text in Church. tell everyone just again, because this is just a highlight for everyone. This is season 2 of the YM Sidekick podcast. Not that there really was a season 1. There was like a 200 and some odd episode season 1, but this is like a shortened season 2. And Jeanette's been on my podcast a whole bunch. And so, but reintroduce yourself just in case someone is new to the podcast.
So my name is Jeanette, and I am a former church communications director. Before that, I was a Pilates instructor. Before that, I was an English teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so I taught English, I taught Pilates, I did church communications, and now I get to teach again in a different way as the communications manager for Text in Church. I get to help members learn how to use the Text in Church platform, and I get to share with them a lot of communication strategies and ideas. So it's pretty exciting. So that's what I do.
Again, we at my church, we are Text in Church users. And so whenever I have an issue with Text in Church, instead of going to my representative, I just tweet to Jeanette. I'm like, hey, what's the deal here? Here's a quick question here.
Yes.
You're so good to respond.
Well, yes, we do have an awesome member success team. And actually, what my little story about Text in Church is, I, as a church communications director, like I was, a Text in Church user. I was a member of Text in Church. I used that for our church, and I was blown away by the member success team. I was like, oh my gosh, Caleb and Rachel are texting me and emailing me all the time to make sure I know what I'm doing. And, if ever I had a question, I was able to email them back or message them through the chat support that's built inside the platform. And they were always responding back to me. And then it was so cool when I started working with them. When I was interviewing, I met them on the interview, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm meeting famous people, because they were, I was like, they're real people.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the member success team is really great. And, I tell this to the members all the time when I'm doing our lunch and learn time together. I'm like, hey guys, I know that help centers or help docs are usually not that helpful, but the help center of Text in Church, I have it on it's on my bookmarks because it's so full of stuff. So they're always updating that too. So they have a really good support team. But that said, whenever my friends do tweet at me or private message me on Facebook about Text in Church, I will answer their questions because I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, well, the Text in Church people are great. And you actually, I think you tweeted out or posted on Facebook recently that Inc. Acknowledged them as one of the best workplace environments, or what?
Yeah, so I think the actual title is best. So every year, Inc. magazine does a list of the best workplaces. And we were just listed in this year, so Inc. magazine's best workplaces of 2020. And so I was like, well, I already knew it was the best workplace. But I'm so proud of Text in Church and all the work that Tyler and the rest of the team has done to make it such a great, just an exceptional work culture, that you feel excited about being a part of it. And, they're very supportive of us as individuals. They encourage us to think outside the box, and at the same time, they are full of grace, but also full of motivation and momentum. And so you're constantly encouraged and challenged at the same time to reach for excellence. And I think that translates into, as we were talking about, that member success is just as we are encouraged to be successful and excellent, we want to encourage our members, those people who are using Text in Church, we want to encourage them, but also push them to be excellent communicators and help them be excellent communicators for their churches and communities as well.
Yeah, and see, part of the reason why I highlighted the Inc. magazine was because it's a great workplace environment, but it carries over to the members. And you see that, and at different times throughout the year, Tyler and your team will give those members, special incentives. And actually now recently, right around Easter time, but then right around when the pandemic hit, they actually gave us some special, extra text messages as well, and was really supportive and encouraging to all the churches that subscribe to Texan Church. So tell me a little bit about the Texan Church and what you guys are doing right now, and a little bit about how you've seen. Obviously, you've seen a spike in churches becoming subscribers and using your service. So tell me a little bit about what Texan Church is doing right now to help churches right now.
Well, one of the really cool things about Texan Church is there is a home office in Kansas City, but we already a lot of us were remote workers. So we didn't have to, like a lot of companies, a lot of churches, a lot of people had to scramble to learn how to keep their company going, their their staff going, and learn and work remotely. And we already had that in place. We already had systems and processes in place for communicating with each other remotely, ways to meet together, ways to collaborate. And so we were easily able to shift into that mode and continue to provide services for our current members, and also develop a strategy to help people, to help churches to connect with their communities during this time, because we know a lot of churches relied heavily on those announcements, those bulletins, so the announcements, on Sundays, and those bulletins. And then when that was stripped away, they were scrambling to figure out, how are we going to communicate our new worship setup? How are we going to communicate the updates about our community and what is going on with church, and how we are planning to continue to be a church even when we can't meet. And so, as a team, we got together, and Tyler, our co-founder, created this, came up with this strategy and this plan to help as many churches as possible be able to communicate quickly. And so one of the things that we did was we started offering 60-day free memberships for new churches, or not new churches, churches that aren't already on Texan Church. And so with that 60-day free membership, that included 2,000 text messages for the first 30 days, 2,000 text messages for the second 30 days, just to allow churches like, hey, get 60 days, be able to text your members quickly and effectively, so you can tell them how to access whether you're doing live stream services, some churches were even like doing live stream services and call-in services, like call this number and you can listen to it on the phone. I mean, there were just so many people. And then just communicating not only worship services, but how are we going to do small groups? How are we going to encourage one another? How are we going to pray for one another? So that's kind of the strategy we developed, is just having this 60-day free membership, giving away text messages, not only to these new people that were doing the 60-day free membership, but as you mentioned, current members also received extra messages so that they could more easily communicate. And just the response to that was unbelievable. And we have been meeting so many new churches and helping them get connected quickly, part of my job is to help them get started with Texan Church quickly, so that they can get those messages out quickly. And the response has been really great.
Yeah. And so just in case somebody missed that, Texan Church is giving away 60 free days of a trial that you can sign up for. And then that includes 2,000 text messages. And here's the deal. This is a stat that's been around for a while now. The open rate for text messages is like 95, 97% or something like that. Whereas
it's pretty high.
Yeah, it's really high. I mean, because again, every text message I get, I feel compelled. I have to open it. I have to check it out. I don't always respond, but so the open rate is so high. So if you're trying to communicate, again, you can use email, and email communication is good, but that's in like the 20s and 30% open rate. Texting is so high. It's an effective tool to use for your church or ministry.
Yeah, it really is. And, and maybe normally you're thinking, I don't know, I don't know a lot about texting, but even people who don't love texting are using texting right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing with what we're seeing with, online church. Even people who don't love to go to online church are going to online church, like that's what they're doing. And, a lot of things I hear sometimes, or a lot of, uh, people say is like, well, um, that's for, younger people, and, our congregation is a little bit older. Obviously you have to know your audience, and, that may be true. I mean, if you have a whole congregation that doesn't have a mobile phone, nobody has a mobile phone, then yes, they're probably not texting. But I can tell you that what I see from the churches I speak with, and, like my life, and just anecdotally, is if people have a smartphone, they are, even if they're not, that's not their primary, like that's not, like my mother-in-law, she would much rather visit you in person or talk to you on the phone or whatever. But because her grandchildren text, she's learning how to text.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's like, they will talk to me on the phone, but they'll text with me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things too, that to think about is, when we realize a value to it, we will use it. And so I think some of that, quote, the older generations even are learning the value of texting because they're realizing who they can talk to. So I recommend that you give it a try for your church, even if you're a little worried. Plus you can reach more people that way as well.
Well, you said a lot of great stuff here, and I just want to highlight some things. One is that this is the time to experiment, and people are doing a lot of experimenting. So if you've always wanted to try something,
Yes.
this is your time now, because of a lot of states are still stay at home, or there's a modified thing. Churches are not meeting in person as much, or they're smaller crowds. And so this is your opportunity to experiment. So if you've always wanted to text and try it out, well, now's the time. And people are
Right.
more open to that, and I will say, my father, who is in his 70s right now, he has an older iPhone, but what he's been doing, actually, again, he's had a smartphone for a few years now, but he is more open to doing things. He's doing Zoom calls when he's never done Zoom calls before.
Right.
And he's calling me now saying, walk me through this, help me understand how I can do this. And he's actually doing it, and he actually likes it. And so even the older generation, even again, if they have a smartphone, like what you just said, Jeanette, they're learning how to do these things now, because that's their only opportunity to stay connected with people.
Right.
Because they have to stay in. The older generation definitely has to stay in during this pandemic. They can't go out as much as they used to. And so if you've always thought about trying this, one is try it. And then two, Texan Church is giving you 2 months of free stuff. It's perfect. It's a perfect opportunity for you to try this now.
Well, and you know what? That's a really good point too. It is a great time for, of course, I want you to try Texan Church, but it's a great time to have an experimental mindset. Michael Hyatt references experimental mindset a lot of times, and he talks about how you can tell everybody, hey, we're trying this out now because we think it'll help us stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
And people are more likely to say, okay, we can try this for a little bit of time. If we don't like it, we don't like it. We don't have to continue. but we're going to try texting. We're going to try online church. We're going to try, Zoom calls. We're going to try all of these things. And it just shows that the church is willing to do what it needs to do to stay connected. And that is, just like Jesus. He used all available to him to reach people. He, and that's what we're called to do as well. So, I would love, I think I'm going to give you a link that you can share in your show notes or however you want to, so that people can get connected with Text and Church. And of course, feel free to tweet at me as well. I'm a Twitter fanatic.
Yes, you
podcast
are.
fanatic. And I would love to answer anybody's questions as well about Text and Church.
Yeah, and I'll include Jeanette's Twitter handle on it in the show notes as well. And thank you for that link. That would be fantastic. Before we wrap up, though, I want to ask you just a few different, just a question on how, other than sending out information on Text and Church and texting people, like we've discovered that one of the ways that we're using Text and Church right now is that our services now have become a little bit more interactive. Our pastor or lead pastor who's given the message, he will engage the online campus or the online church and ask them questions and say, hey, text in a question to our number, whatever our number was, and then we'll try our best to answer our questions. So we're trying to use texting to make our church services a little bit more interactive. How else have you seen churches use like Text and Church more than just to communicate what's happening?
Well, that has been one of the most exciting things about working with Text and Church right now, is watching how churches, who maybe have only been using it for like guest follow-up, which is a great way to use it.
Yep.
And we do have a live stream guest follow-up plan now, too, like a guest follow-up workflow. In addition to our regular one, but so they use it for guest follow-up, and they're also using it for member communication, like, just basic. What we're seeing is people really thinking outside the box. So maybe they're having people text in their prayer requests. So that's one way. Another thing we've seen is text in if you need grocery delivery. Text in if you need someone to come mow your lawn. So this is different outreach ideas.
Yeah.
There's another, I saw one the other day on Instagram. One of our members and they do several different things. They have an outreach, text if you need. I think they're one of the ones that does the groceries, but then they also had text the word Bible if you want us to deliver a Bible to your home.
Oh, that's cool.
I know. I was like, oh, hearts. And so that was really cool. Now that we, at the time of this recording, we're getting ready for Mother's Day, and a lot of people are doing text if you want us to deliver flowers to your mom on Mother's Day.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that awesome?
That's very cool.
My church is doing, they've texted something out about for families to text in a video or email a video through this thing. So they're like texting all the parents or all the youth, for example, and saying, hey, make a video for your mom, send it to this, email address or whatever. So they're doing little things like that to prepare for Mother's Day. I'm trying to think, there was another good one. I can't think of it right now, but there's just been a lot of stuff. One of the things we do in our Facebook group, our Text and Church Facebook group, is share ideas like this. And so I see them all the time, but those are some of the highlights that I've seen.
And I wanted to highlight that because I think a lot of times when we think about text messaging, we're thinking about just, hey, let's just share out updated information.
Right.
And, this is one of those things that you can do. It's bigger than that. You can do so much more. I mean, I know for our student ministry, we did a serve at home week where we encouraged them to serve at home. And we were texting them just encouragement throughout the week. Hey, what are you doing? Who's serving? Send us back a picture of, what you're doing to serve today. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that.
And depending on your budget, and this is real, I was thinking about this when you were talking, because you and I are both, we're kind of into the Star Wars and different things like that. And so one of our churches, he has like, in addition to doing he does prayer requests, I think, and he does the updates, but like he also does like fun things too. So like on May the 4th be with you day.
Yeah.
He texted out like a May the 4th be with you thing for his. And so people are having fun with it too. Yeah. You mentioned send a picture. One of our other members did like, take a selfie and send it in, a quarantine selfie. So, you can do that too. You can also just do, you can do we want to bring you a Bible. We want to bring you groceries. We want to pray for you. But then you can also just do, text me the silliest face you can make, or text me your weird, especially if you're running a youth program, like go into your, you can have that. Now I will tell you, that's another thing our youth group is doing. They text to remind about the stuff that's going on Instagram, because that's where our youth is hanging out mostly.
Yeah, well, again, text to remind them, all that kind of stuff is very important. But I think it's so cool to see how different people are using it differently, because, again, it's a successful way to communicate with people and keep them up to date and keep encouraging them. We've talked before in previous podcasts about how during Christmas and Easter time, I would set up a text and church group, and I would send them daily Bible verses to encourage them as Christmas is approaching or Easter is approaching. Mm-hmm. So and in fact, I had one person send me a text back saying, "Why did those Bible verses stop? We liked getting those Bible verses." And I'm like, well, we did it just for Easter. So we're going to have to really have our plan if we...
Right. I was going to say, that's a big, big plan.
Yeah, I know. That's, it kills us. But anyways, so, well,
but it's
Jeanette,
worth it when people are feeling connected to do everything you can to continue to reach out to them. And I thank you so much for the opportunity to come and just share about, how Text and Churches is trying to help churches stay connected. And, I will send you that link, and please share my Twitter.
Yeah.
I love it.
I will definitely do that. And I will say, Text and Church, there are a lot of different text services out there, but you get your money's worth for it and much more. And the team is great. Jeanette's great. And they're very generous. And so I would strongly encourage you, if you're looking at it, now's your time to check it out. And definitely, so click the link on in the show notes, and also click Jeanette's Twitter handle and tweet her. If you have any questions, she's happy to do it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tom, for letting me come on again today. And again, next time next time we do this, I need to have a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's like a frequent, I don't know, frequent guest.
Yeah. I'm going to get on Stan on that right now. So that'll be great. All right, Jeanette, thank you. As always, it's great having you on.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
All right, so there you have it, my conversation with Jeanette, talking about text messaging. Now, just before I get into the wrap up here, for the record, if you go to the blog post where I've got this you can subscribe to this via iTunes or Spotify or whatnot, but if you go to ymsidekick.com where I have all my content, in the blog post with this audio, I have a picture of Jeanette with her new t-shirt. I got on Stan immediately after my conversation with Jeanette, ordered her a shirt. She got it, she wore it, and she's flaunting it loud and proud. And so I was excited to get that for her. She is fantastic. And, the thing about Jeanette is, she is everybody's friend. I have not met a person that she does not just treat with high respect, and is very nice and compassionate to and helpful for. She is a fantastic person. So if you're not following her on Twitter, you got to get following her on Twitter. She's got a lot of great stuff on it. If you're not following Text and Church, you got to follow that. Again, I've got all the information about Text and Church, all the information about Jeanette on there. on the show notes. So definitely click on those links. 60 free days. That's not cheap. I mean, that's good stuff. So if you're not involved with texting right now, get on there. It's a fantastic opportunity for you right now. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this. How are you using text messaging? What platform are you using? Share it with me on Twitter at @TA Pounder. Even tag Jeanette on it as well. I would love to hear what you're using it for, because there's so many different ideas that it's almost like endless. Jeanette and I hit on some of them. There are so many other ways that you're using it right now that we didn't even talk about. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it for that. So share with us. Again, on Twitter, we'd love for you to do it. Again, also, as I said before, you can subscribe to it. Get on iTunes, Spotify, Android. You can subscribe there. Go to ymsidekick.com. But also make sure you hit up, if you want to learn more digital stuff and learn more digital tools to help you apply into your ministry, go to the Digital Bootcamp Facebook group. I've got a link in it on my show notes there. We're learning digital tools now. This is the perfect opportunity for you to experiment and grow in this area. We're all learning together. It doesn't matter if you're paid or volunteer or what your position is at your church or ministry. We want you in the Facebook group, so definitely join in on there. Go to ymsidekick.com for all the content. Get some cool practical stuff really on Digital Bootcamp. We'd love for you to be a part of that. All right, heroes. Well, thanks so much for joining me and Jeanette today, or Jeanette and I today. I can't wait to see you next week for the whole new podcast. Until then, have a great one.